in here. It's not nice in the winter months. In the winter months, it's freezing, but nice today.
Won't fancy playing in it.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, James.
Robert, there's been a fair bit going on down at your club this week, hasn't there? Can you start with the Matt Frolley deal, how that's come about from your point of view, and what he's going to bring to you at the moment?
Look, we've been in this position before this year, where we've lost Clooney. We've tried different combinations with the young lads, and probably just felt like, well, a little bit of game management and experience we've lacked. So we thought it was just imperative that we actually bring somebody in who's got some experience. And we think Matt Frawley's that. Look, he knows the club anyway. He knows some of the lads. He's best mates with Zack. He's still close to Leroy. Obviously, I was assistant coach when he was previously. He's a really, really, really good bloke. So for a culture perspective, he's really good. He's going to enhance that. And just from a rugby perspective, he just gives us a lot of experience. He gives us a little bit of a lot of direction. He's a big body for an half. So defensively, he's pretty sound as well. So we think that he's going to definitely. We feel like we're making some momentum, if I'm honest, over the past few weeks. When Clooney came back into the side, we feel like we're the last few games when we probably should have picked Lee. We definitely should have picked Wigan. But we feel like the performances have been pretty good. And we sort of felt like we're carrying a lot of momentum. And I didn't want to go back to starting all over again and trying to, fumble his way through games. So I think, he's going to be a big plus for us. And fingers crossed for him. He hasn't been playing many games at Leeds, sorry. So it's an opportunity for him to showcase what he's good at. And it just gives us some valuable experience.
What's the prognosis on Adam Clune?
He's out for the year. So he's out for the year. He's had a torrid time. A torrid time as Clooney. He came back pre-season, came back from Australia, went to Australia fit, came back injured, redid it. On his return, we're out again. He's obviously one of his key signings. He's only managed to play 5 games this year, which has been really disappointing for him, and for us. He did his hamstring. He's been back 4 weeks. Looked at his loading patterns and everything else, and sometimes it's just not meant to be. But he sort of went into a tackle and pulled his leg, and the hamstring went. So he's been the prognosis 3 to 4 months, which is devastating from a personal perspective from him. But look, also from us as well. He's a key player for us, and looked like you're actually starting to build something with Tue. But like I say, we've got a capable replacement in Frolley.
Initially, for a month, given what you've just said about Clune, you're looking to extend Frolley?
Yeah, look, we don't look too far in the future, but potentially that's, hopefully he hits the ground running this week and builds a decent partnership with the spine, and we can continue, him being here unless Leeds decide they need to call him back. It'd be nice if we could actually keep the same spine for a while.
Just on Matt, I've seen his first spell at Huddersfield. I thought he did okay. I've seen it described as underwhelming. What was the feeling among the coaching staff at the time? Because obviously he left halfway through that initial deal, didn't he? Yeah, look, he
probably came at a bit of a time when there were a little bit of stuff going on behind the scenes and within the team. And I thought his first period were pretty well, went decent for us. There were obviously games where he probably underperformed, but there were games where he overperformed as well. And it was probably a bit indicative of the way the team were going, not just him as an individual. It was probably more the team. Look, he's played in RL as Frolley. He's played a fair few Super League games. He's experienced. He's coming to the back end of his career where he can really, really manage teams and organise and help, the forwards and the young lads around him. So we're just hoping that he can give us that.
Obviously, Jack Murch's departure has been confirmed. Is that something that you were expecting to happen? Did you see that one coming?
Yeah, a little bit. He struggled with a knee injury when he first came over here, Jack. He had that's one of the big things that have come in when I've took over is the lack of medicals that were done previously. and it's not Jack's fault. You know, obviously, I didn't, but the club knew that he'd had issues with both knees in the past, and obviously the club thought that it was something that could be managed and got through, but he had troubles last year at the back end of the year. It raised, once again, it happened again this year. They rehabbed him to the best of their ability, but he just said, he came to me a few weeks ago and just said, look, I'm really struggling with my knee, really struggling to get on the field, and yeah, I think he's known for a long time. He told me that he's at the end of his career he's going to have a full knee operation at some point. So it was just a case of he could do no more to get on the field. It's been really frustrating, probably from my perspective, but also from his as well, from a personal one. The amount of times he's managed to get on the field for us.
Also this week, Zack Walford's new deal has been announced. How significant is that, given the way he's played in his debut season?
Oh, look, he's had a little bit of a stop-starty season, if I'm honest, regarding his ability to get in the team with his few little niggles and knocks that he had. But every time that he's been injured, he has shown what a true professional he is. He's pretty much come back early every time, weeks early, in front of where he should be, which probably is a real good indication of how professional he is. He eats, breathes, sleeps rugby league. He's obviously from a rugby league family. He's had a really, really strong upbringing within sport, so he understands the game. He's very astute. I've said for a while, when I first took over, that was my first thing that I looked at is the lack of nine and direction from the hooking department. We had some really good applicants that put the name forward for us to sign, but Zack were way ahead of all of those. I thought from a defensive, he's quite a big nine. Defensively, he's really sound, really creative in at dummy half, and he's going into the best years of his career, where he's actually starting to become a leader within the group, or not become a leader, but he's one of the leaders within the group. So I think we've got him at a really good age, and he's probably got one of the best service as a nine, one of the best service in the league. So for us, yeah, he's a really important cog, and we're really, really happy to have him here for the not just this season, but the seasons coming up as well.
Let's talk about Saturday's game. Have you been literally seconds away from beating Wigan? What are you going to need to do to beat Warrington on Saturday?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be the exact same scenario. Look, they're a really good team. They're a real good team. They've got to the Challenge Cup final, which is an achievement in itself. They went really well last year. They've got a similar squad, if not a better squad. So they're a really tough team to play at the Halliwell Jones. It's not an easy place to go. The star-studded side, and they're going to be very difficult to beat. We've just got to concentrate on ourselves, though. We need to put in the same performance that we put in at Lee in the second half, and Wigan for 79 minutes and 55 seconds. Because I think if we put in them performances, then I think we will be in the game and in with a shout. Which I've said all along. When we start getting all them players back, which we have done. We've lost Clooney and a few others this week, but when we start getting the vast majority of us team, then hopefully we can keep putting them performances together. And I think it's going to be the same this week. If we give them an inch, they're a very dangerous side. They can get a lot of momentum at home. So we need to start well, and we need to put ourselves in a position where it goes down to the last 10 minutes, and hopefully we can snag one of these close defeats.
Just before I pass you over, there's a number of players celebrating milestones, aren't there, on Saturday? Thomas Burgess's 350th career appearance, including 250, of course, in the NRL. George King's 250th career appearance. It's also his 200th Super League. And Ollie Wilson's 100th Super League. I feel a bit sorry for George and Ollie that they're getting superseded by Thomas Burgess. But, I mean, Burgess, obviously, that's a massive accolade, isn't it?
Oh, look, he's done it at the highest level, and to do it for such a long time is obviously an accomplishment in itself. I've said before, said to the lads at the beginning of today's session that, look, what he's done in his career, to make your England debut once is a very, very special occasion. It's not it's not for everybody. Not everybody gets that opportunity to do it so many times for your country's phenomenal. To actually go over the other side of the world and compete in the the number one competition in rugby league and actually come away with a grand final is again phenomenal. But to play so many games it's fabulous. Not many people could ever say they've done that. George King, to play 200 Super League games and 250 appearances is again very, very special, and it takes a lot to do. So we don't want to take the shine away from George King as well, to play that many games at the very highest level in this country, which is no mean feat. And to play 250th, to make his 250th career appearances again, look, it's a really special occasion for him. And, Ollie Wilson to do 100 games, or potentially do 100 games, is another great achievement.
Brilliant. Thank you, mate. All the best for tomorrow. I'll pass you over to Steve and James.
Thank you.
Yeah, Robert. How you doing? Oh,
hi, lads.
Sorry, Steve. Just picking up what you said there. Ollie Wilson, is he not playing tomorrow?
Yeah, we don't know yet. At this moment in time, he's had a little bit of an issue for the last probably 8 weeks, really, with his pubis. So it's one of those where he's been managing himself as much as he can. So we're going to make a bit of a late call on him, basically later today, and decide whether he plays this game and has an injection in the early next week, or whether he misses and goes straight for the injection. So we're going to make a call that later today.
Is that something you're going to have to manage for the rest of the season now, maybe?
Yeah, but no. Once he gets the injection into it and he has a little bit of time off, at some point he's going to have to miss a game. He's going to have the injection, miss the game, but the injection should pretty much. Well, we're going to have to always. You treat every individual differently anyway, but that should calm it down sufficiently where he can actually, continue for the rest of the season.
No, good stuff. Just going back to last week, it seemed Dewsbury suited you down to the ground. Did that give you a bit of a window into your future and potentially moving into a smaller stadium like that?
Look, I think so. I think the chairman's, not being shy in the fact that he says that we need a stadium that suits us, that suits the Huddersfield Giants. I think sometimes our really loyal, loud fans get lost in that stadium, and they do. And I think at Dewsbury, I think we created a really, really good atmosphere. The atmosphere was great, and I think it showed that the players really sort of bought into it, and actually they were bouncing on the back of it. I think that no player should ever need somebody else to get them up for games and give 100%, obviously. But when you've got, a bit of a smaller stadium where you can, when the fans are getting behind you, it definitely helps. And I think it showed that the other day.
Yeah, and I guess the challenge now is to harness that, the performance and the atmosphere and that togetherness in it for the rest of the season. Yeah,
there's been loads of occasions where we should have probably won games at the beginning of the year, and it got snatched away in the last couple of minutes, so we haven't been far off in a lot of games. But you are right, I felt like the last two, against Lee and against
Recording
Wigan,
stopped.
we built a lot of momentum, and that's something that we want to keep and we want to continue, because if we push teams and we go into the 75th minute, the 79th minute, and we put ourselves in good positions, then I'm sure as luck will change and we'll nag one of those victories.
Yeah, there's still a lot to be gained in the second half of the season, despite what the table might say.
Oh, look, very much so. We hopefully the players understand who they're playing for and the badge they're playing for, the fans, and not only that, themselves. That we want to put as best performances as much as we can, and we feel like I said all along. Once we've been knocked out of that Challenge Cup final, that it gives us an opportunity to reset that week, give us an opportunity to get some training under his belt, get some of the players that haven't actually played and actually aren't trained, build some combinations. I felt like that's where the season would have started. And I felt like in the league game, second half, we made massive strides, particularly in that weekend. Let's be honest, anybody who watched that game, we should have won. We should have won. It was probably harder to lose than it was to win, but hopefully we keep performing like that, then we can change our fortunes.